Hello and welcome to Chick Chat. I'm your host Jessica Fowler with lovely Sandy Jameson and Sonia Thomas. And today we're talking about a topic that means a lot to me, something that I've studied for years, something that I'm constantly working on, but that was brought to us by actually one of our viewers. So
yes,
fantastic.
Laura, thank you for bringing this topic to our attention. Something that we knew we needed to talk about, so I think this is the time for it.
Yeah, and so the topic is listening. Something that's dear to me because my first and my actual career started in sales. And as a salesperson, if you're talking more than you're listening, you're losing sales. I will tell you that. It's counterintuitive, but I learned the more you can listen and the better you can listen, the better you'll do at sales. And secondly, I think I have a little bit of ADHD. So I interrupt, my mind races, and I find that I was interrupting conversations or, picking up on body language as I got older, that I wasn't a great listener. So I've done a lot of research and work on my listening. I'm still not great. Sweetie, if you're listening, I'm working on it. But there's a lot of techniques that you can do for listening. And you had one the other day that I thought was incredible that I was unaware of.
When I showed up for recording, you were talking about something that had happened on the weekend or some sort of conversation, and I was setting up and I knew I couldn't actively participate in the conversation. So I told you that I don't know exactly what I said, but do you remember?
I think you were like, I'm not available right now.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yes,
I'm not available for this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I needed to focus on what I was doing, so I wasn't actively listening and therefore couldn't participate.
Yeah, and
Which was incredible.
Yeah, it was really freeing. It wasn't rude at all. Like, we kind of just got where you were at.
I wasn't.
Yeah, Sandy's doing
yeah.
the thing. So, yeah.
But I wasn't taken back because
No.
it's the first time anyone's ever said, like, I'm sorry, I can't actively listen right now, so I'm not going to participate, because I think we will constantly be like, and we're not actively listening all the time, or we're taking in other things. Like, my girlfriend was so upset the other day because she was with her boyfriend, and middle of her sentence, he was looking at his phone and was like, oh, breaking news. And she was like, oh my gosh. And it just ruins everything because you're not engaged. And listening is so important because it's likability. It's how you grow relationships. I think listening is a really important tool.
Well, don't we all want to feel heard and understood? Like, what's that without listening? I remember too, once I was having, like, I thought I was having this intense conversation with my ex, and I was like pouring out how I was feeling, and I glazed, and he was like watching the baseball game, and I was like, fuck. I'm so angry. I'm like, listen. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I hate to laugh at it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or when you're talking and somebody jumps in with their story and you haven't even reached your point yet.
Yeah.
It's about listening without thinking about your story and your comeback, just fully listening.
Yeah.
And then jumping in. I mean, not jumping in, and then responding, right? Listening and then responding and being a part of the conversation instead of dominating the conversation.
Right. That is a one for me too, because I'll always be like, oh, like you'll trigger certain things, but I've learned to wait for the last word of someone's speech. Or down chunking is another way. So having a follow-up question, listening so intently that you're looking for a follow-up question, which shows someone that you're actually listening and that you want to know more, so it shows that you care. Another way to actively listen is paraphrasing. So, so your trip wasn't that great, because of the weather, right? Just confirmation statements, like, I was listening and this is what I'm hearing.
For sure.
Can be really good ways to actively listen. But
yeah, and if you don't know what to say, that's a great one, right? Like at a party or whatever, just to paraphrase, pare it back a little bit, just get clarification, just to make space for the other person to be heard, and like you can like open up, again, bridge who knows, maybe a relationship that way as well, right?
Oh yeah, my best friend is, everybody loves her, Aida, if you're listening, because she just asks questions. Like, it's a huge likability thing of like, oh, tell me more about this, tell me more about this. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? If you're on a date, if you ask questions, they're gonna feel good. If you're trying to sell something, ask them questions. It's a likability thing. So I think listening to someone, you have opportunities to ask pertinent questions that are relevant to what they're saying. And unless you're listening, you're not going to find those. So I think it's really important.
You probably have that as part of your coaching business, to do a lot of listening.
Yeah, that's
right?
the cornerstone really of coaching. It's listening with an empathetic ear, listening to body cues as well, and listening also when people want to avoid talking about something. So seeing if like there's hesitation in the voice, and being able to then use that as a cue to further the conversation along. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the social media needs to be addressed again. I think that's such a huge problem when phones become the distraction and you're not really engaged in the conversation. I think it's really important to bring that attention back to just authentic conversations that don't involve social media. And I don't know, there's a problem there. There's a bigger conversation that we need to have, for sure, and maybe that's another topic in the future, but it's so important that we engage and listen and connect instead of always looking for something else, right?
Yeah, distracting
And looking at our
ourselves.
phones, I feel like younger generation's really bad at that. I agree. And I think you hit a good point too of when you're listening is try not to be judgmental.
Did I say that?
No, you were just saying that with an empathetic ear, which ties into really good listening, is like people can say something, and when we judge when they're saying something, our emotions tie in, and we're not engaged, and we're not actively listening anymore. Now we're judging, so we've changed our state of mind. So they say to be empathetic and just really listen, not to take on what they're saying. Because when you take on what you're saying, then you're becoming judgmental. You're owning what they're saying.
And then you're reacting instead of responding.
Yeah,
That's a really good point.
That is a
Right?
good
Yeah.
one. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we hope that you've been listening, and we've taught you a few ways to listen better. Leave us your comments, concerns, feedback. If you have any tips or tricks on how you listen better, we'd be very curious to learn more. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thanks.